3 months or so living or going up to his house every weekend. At some point, it became normal for me to sit on his lap. I don't really know when that happened. All I can remember is the first time he touched me.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
The reason why I say I deserved an ass whooping was just because of the situation. I walked home. I usually ride bus, and so I got home like 2-3 hours late. And it's funny you asked that because my mom wasn't mad at me for walking home or whatever. She was just mad about the inconvenience of the situation. And it wasn't even like, where's my son? It was like, where the fuck is my son? You know, and as soon as I got in the house, get upstairs. I'm like, you know, so that's what really made it bad. And, you know, like I said, when I saw her punch my sister in the mouth like multiple times and she's like beating her head against the wall, my mom would like, she had these long nails. She would grab us. I remember she grabbed me by the face one time and just, because she had these nails and she knew it. And she would grab you and like just right in your face. And I remember I talk about it in my book again where like she's like bouncing my head against the wall. And I can smell her breath because she smokes and drinks. And I can just like smell it hit me in the face. And she's yelling at me and this, you know, the spittle's coming out and smacking you. It's just, you know, that shit's terrifying when you're a little kid, man. It just, So
you go into this, you're going to go play video games with this. I'm assuming you're talking about Armando Vasquez.
That's right.
Yes. Probably seems alluring. Hey, an adult's gonna let me go play video games at their house. This is kind of cool.
Yep. I remember going
and show me some love and interest.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we go up to his house. On the way there, he drove this like little like Honda Civic. We listened to Metallica, like AC/DC, full blast air conditioning in the car, which I'd never had. So like these like little things I remember were just like, hell yeah, dude. Like this is awesome.
I made it.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I'm like, dude, this is sick. We get to his house. There's like 3 TVs, 2 computers. There's a big table like this in the middle of the. So he has this like studio apartment. There's one big room, you know, with a kitchenette right in the back and a bathroom. But it's just one big room. And so you walk in, it's like I said, 3 TVs, couple computers, big table for, we played D&D, Dungeons and Dragons as well, like role-playing stuff. And so I'm like, dude, this is freaking awesome. Drinking coffee, pop, eating all the pizza you want.
It's a kid toucher's paradise.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
It's a grooming paradise.
It is. Yeah, it was. That guy had the fucking playbook. He probably wrote the playbook, as a matter of fact. The guy actually ran a haunted house in that town of Bluffton, Ohio. That town has 4,000 people in that town. So I don't know, maybe 1,000 kids, 1,500 kids. And I've actually gone back and messaged people from that town and asked them if they remember this haunted house. And they're like, yeah, we do. We loved it every year. And I would help the guy run it. But at his mom's house on Main Street, she lived in a Victorian-style house. She had like a wraparound porch. We'd set up a haunted house. Every single kid in that town would come through that haunted house, and he was always at the end handing out candy. You know,
he was checking out the merchandise.
Yeah,
yep.
Exactly.
Yep. So we go up to his house, and basically at 10 years old, I start hanging out with this man essentially every weekend of my life. Like this is like freaking golden, dude. Like, oh my God. Video games, pizza, pop, you name it, you know, whatever. Great time. All the best video games, all the newest video games. Great time.
You finally felt like you felt love. Like someone cared about you.
Yeah. It was like you could just relax. Like when you went up there, you could just like kick your feet up and nobody's gonna get mad at you. Nobody's gonna be
judge
upset.
you.
Yeah, nothing was like wrong. And I couldn't do anything wrong. I could do whatever the hell I wanted and I was never in trouble, you know?
Probably curse,
yeah,
say whatever you want.
Yeah, dude, yeah. That's one of the funny things I talk about is like, yeah, I could cuss all I wanted and nobody cared. We could watch whatever we wanted. Nobody cared. So it was awesome. And I would continue to hang out with him every single weekend. Like, shit you not, if there's 52 weekends in a year, I was there 40 to 45 of them. And as I started hanging out with him, my mom got worse and worse, right? So I try to explain this to people so they understand. Monday through Friday, I was living on one side of the street, right? Mom, she's getting into crack and cocaine. She's dating this guy who's like a preacher or pastor or whatever at some like local church. Gets her onto the hard drugs.
Like any good preacher would do.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So I knew
the same thing.
Yeah, this guy was a total piece of shit. I knew him as soon as I saw the guy. I knew he was trouble. When you're young and you've been around a bunch of bullshit, you learn to read people really quick, and that's what I could do. And I knew it was trouble. We end up going to this other house. We're living in this little shitty house, and it's kind of crazy. I had a hardwood floor in my bedroom, and all the floor was buckled all the way across. So hardwood floors, if they're exposed to weather, they'll actually buckle up and crack and split. And it feels like it hurts to walk across the shit, you know? So the reason why that was happening was because in my bedroom, up in the corner of my ceiling, I had a hole that was like 2 feet wide, give or take, and about 4 feet deep. Like the entire corner of my ceiling was missing out of my bedroom. You could see into the attic above. And my mom, like without hesitation, puts me up in this room, little like 3-4 inch mattress, thin little blanket, and I'm up there every night freezing my ass off. This is Ohio, and it would rain and the water literally comes straight into my room. So we put a plastic tarp up, but it was just like, oh my God, I can't imagine putting my kids in a bedroom like that, you know?
Right, that would be the bedroom I would sleep in.
Yeah, exactly. That's and my mom slept in the living room, like nice and warm in the living room. She's fine.
Yeah.
And you know, and so it just blew my mind that I was up there. And that's when I really started getting like the suicidal ideations at around 10 years old or so, because I was just tired of my home life. And at that point, we were seeing so much drugs coming in out of the house, like the crack and the coke heads coming in and out. And we had this bathroom in the back of the house. They would literally come in the house, walk straight to the back, and just start getting high. And during the summer, it was worse because I wasn't at school all day, you know? So if I'm at home most of the day, you just see these people nonstop. And they'd be in the bathroom for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours at a time. It was insane. And our bathroom was not big, you know, but it just blew my mind as a young man to like see this. And I was really scared at this time. And I pissed the bed every night. We just didn't have a lot of food. It was just bad, right? So that's one side of the street that I was living on. And the other side was going to this guy's house, you know, and within about 3 months of knowing him, I think it was about the first time he touched me, you know, started molesting me. So
leading up to the touching,
yeah.
How did he normalize certain things to you?
Yeah.
Was it verbiage? Was it movies? Was it?
It was, he's good. I'll tell you that. He's very good at what he did. Yeah. He's very calculated, very strategic.
They work their game.
Yeah. And the thing I'll give him is that he's very patient. He's very, very patient. So what happened was about 3 months or so living or going up to his house every weekend. At some point, it became normal for me to sit on his lap. I don't really know when that happened. All I can remember is the first time he touched me. But I was sitting in his lap, and Jacob was there, and Jacob goes down the street to go get some tacos. And I'm sitting in his lap, and I remember sitting on his left knee. He was real big, you know. He had this chair we'd always sit in together, and he had his left hand on my left hip, and his hand drops down and brushes my butt, and he says, "I'm sorry." And just like if me and you bumped in the hallway, I'm like, "Man, not a big deal." And so he puts his hand on my ass, and he grabs me, and he says, "So this is okay." And as soon as he did that, even at 10 years old, I was like, "All right, here we go. Like we're about to do this." You know, I kind of felt like the best way I can describe this is at the top of the roller coaster. I had finally hit my last click, and as soon as he grabbed me, I'm like looking down now, like, "Oh, we're about to do this, huh?"
We're about to go.
Yep. And so he puts his hand on my butt, and he holds it there, and he's like, "So this is okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And you know, he probably had the next like 6 years of my life or 20 years of my life planned out right then and there.
The key component to any law enforcement officer being the best version of themselves is through education. Sherry Alsop is a leader in providing that education to police agencies, preparing them for the all too frequent dealings with sexual assault victims.
You've seen Sherry on episode 169 of the Suffering Podcast. She survived incest and almost daily sexual assault, so she comes from a place of experience and true understanding.
Sherry has the intelligence, commitment, and compassion to open the eyes of those on the front lines, while providing the tools to effectively deal with a difficult situation. Sherry's instruction comes from experience and multiple certifications.
Training with Sherry will offer on-site training, customized schedules, specialized instruction tailored from a victim's perspective.
You are going to hear Sherry's heart-wrenching but inspiring survivor story. Learn proprietary trauma-informed training techniques, uncovered victim-centered interview methods while earning continuing education credits according to your state guidelines. To be the best, you must learn from the best. Let Sherry also guide you through the delicate cases of sexual assault from a victim's point of view.
Be a source of comfort to those victims affected by these traumatic experiences while producing a solid investigation and uncovering details that often go unnoticed.
To find out more or to contact Sherry Alsop, go to sherryalsop.com. That's SherryAllsup.com.
It's really sad to think about like the amount of effort that you put in just to do this to a young child.
So looking back, if he would have put his hand on your ass and you react a certain way, he would know that either he has to take a different route or this is a no-go situation.
Move on to the next one.
And from your perspective, being 10, 11 years old, you have this paradise that you have found and you don't want to lose this paradise. So I got to put up with some minor inconveniences in your mind, because there's plenty of people that are going to come up to you and say, well, why didn't you fight back? Which is the worst thing you could possibly say to somebody, because, gee, why didn't I fucking think of that to fight back?
Oh, geez, that's a new concept to me.
That's a great fucking idea, you asshole.
Yeah.
You know?
But was it that the whole arrangement that almost made it okay? You know what I'm saying? I mean, because you get to play video games there. You know, he had the TVs, he had the computers and everything. So it's like,
Yeah, you know, I knew it was wrong right away, and I think initially I just froze because I was scared, and then after that, because I accepted it, it's almost like if you make a joke about my mom, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's funny, and now you've opened that door, and now
keep
you can
doing it.
Yeah, you can make that joke all you want, and instead I should have just been like, hey man,
Not cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but mom's off limits, right? Yeah. And so when you open the door, it's hard to close it because then they're going to be like, well, what the hell? You just let me say it last week. Why can't I say it this week? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what happened with me, because a lot of people, whenever I hear other people's stories, they always talk about they're able to dissociate, go into a different world, or they're able to put another person in that body for a minute, or they just forget it and or you know, they have these like different ways of coping. I did not have that at all. Like, I was very present, aware. I knew it was wrong. I was disgusted by it. I never enjoyed any bit of it. And that's, I think, what was so like tormenting on my soul, because I was just like, I hated it, man. I hated it. Like, if another man right now grabs me, I don't like it, because like, I'm a man and you're a man, and that's not how I float.
We're not crossing swords.
Yeah, well, like, we're not doing that, right? So, and that's how I felt then too. I'm like, dude, like, this is not okay. But it was just happening to me. And once he touched me that first time, you know, Jacob gets back. Obviously, he moves his hand. But then from there on, I mean, it was like a caged dog, you know, and just like with a bowl of food in front of him. It just
Now he's got a little toy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I'm going home once again, dealing with my mom, going back. Boom, we're doing this for a couple years. And about 2 years in to him molesting me, and this is happening every single weekend. I've met his mom. I've met his sisters. I've gone to his family events, like Memorial Days, 4th of July's, whatever. Christmases, Thanksgiving, I've been with his family.
Because, hey, you know, the guy's got this little thing, but he's got some really cool shit at his house. I get it. Like, I understand it.
Well, that's what I said. You know, I mean, he's feeding you pizza.
Yep.
You know, you're playing all those video games and everything else. So you almost, you put it in your mind that it's really almost right.
It's the price you have to pay to get
Yes.
some of the good things in life.
Yep.
And again, someone's showing you love.
Yep. And
Because
so
apparently your mom and your dad weren't showing you love. So now you find that love
that's right.
for all the wrong reasons. But
Yeah, and you know, my mom never asked any questions. My dad was obviously never in the picture. And so, yeah, I'm showing up. And what's crazy too is like, I want to meet his family today. I knew them then, but I'd like to talk to him today and just ask him like what the hell? Like, not in an accusation way, but just like, what were y'all thinking? Like, what's going on?
did they know?
I don't know how you don't. When your 30-year-old brother is showing up with a 10-year-old boy that looks like a girl, because I had hair like down to my shoulders. I did look like a girl. As a matter of fact, his mom told me I was too pretty to be a boy. And when he would molest me, he would say that to me. He would talk about how pretty I was and like, oh, you're too pretty to be a boy. And it was real disgusting. Like, a lot of the time, so I say all that because I knew his family, I knew everybody, and then we'd go back to his house. And as the time went on for the next, you know, couple of years, it went from being like 70-30 or 80-20 video games to molestation to slowly just, as soon as I got into the house, a couple hours in, it'd be 6, because he would pick me up Friday after school, right? So I'd get to his house about 4:30, 5 o'clock. By 7, 8 o'clock, he was laying in bed. And what he would do, this is like really haunting. And it's almost like if I was getting called to hell and there's like a bell that's just gonging, right? Boom, boom. What he would do is lay in his bed. And so his bed was in the back left corner of the studio and it was blocked off by some black sheets hanging from the ceiling. And he would lay there and he would just punch the wall behind him. Boom, boom. And I would be out there playing video games. And that was like my calling, like it's time. And I'm getting chills now.
So you'd have to go into, he was basically ringing the dinner bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, his dinner bell.
And feeling somewhat dutiful, you go back there.
Yeah.
And what happens?
Oh, man. I usually don't get emotional about this.
Listen, it happened to you, it would happen to other people too. And your story is going to help people. So get as emotional as you want, man.
Yeah, so, yeah, the dinner bell analogy is really good. And that's kind of how it was. It's like Pavlov's theory, you know?
Pavlov's dog.
The dog
Yeah.
salivates every time the bell rings, yeah.
And that's kind of what was happening. And the reason why I talk about the salivating specifically is I'll tell you this. I would go back there, right? And I would eventually start sleeping with him every night, you know, in bed. And
So you're staying over there all weekend.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Friday night, Saturday night, and he'd take me home Sunday.
Now, did he make you take your clothes off when he came back?
Initially, it was just a lot of touching, and then it would be putting his hands in my shorts. And I remember all this. I remember how it all feels. I remember his hands were rough. They're very rough. They're very calloused. He had long nails. His knuckles were so rough. As a matter of fact, he would take his fingers and rub them like this, and it would sound like rocks, like rubbing together. That's just how like rough his hands were. So I just remember his like callousy hands touching me. But he would put his hands in my shorts. He would touch my penis, my butt. He would eventually start to like kind of spread my butt to try and put his finger inside of me. And I remember telling him like it hurts too much. He's like, well, he had some Vaseline next to his bed, this big jar of Vaseline. So he's like, well, what about this? And I said, no, it's like your nail. It hurts. And so like as a little boy, I'm like trying to like find out how to compromise or like how to like
Get out of it? I mean,
well, what
anything.
I'm almost like telling him
Like I'm on my period,
Yeah, so it's crazy. And so, he goes, so I remember the next weekend I came up there, his nail was gone. He gets rid of his whole freaking nail in his middle finger so he can use it on me. And so that starts to happen, right? So he's using his finger. And this is pretty much starts to happen every weekend. And like I said, it goes from a lot of video games to a little bit of sex or molestation to a lot of that versus video games. And, but it was, very routine. Like I said, he'd go back there, he'd ring the dinner bell. I'd go back to his bed, lay down, and he would talk to me and just say he loved me. And he would talk to me like all these disgusting things that not like sexually disgusting, but just how much he loved me and how much I meant to him. And he couldn't wait till I was 18. So it was legal and we wouldn't have to hide this anymore. And the salivating part, this is why I talk about that. So the first time he makes me touch him, I didn't understand this at the time. I didn't understand this for a long time because I didn't know what the hell it was. But I remember he's like, well, why don't you touch me? And I'm like, I don't want to do this shit at all. Like, I don't feel guilty about like returning the favor or anything. I'm like, no, like I'm not doing this shit. And he eventually convinces me. And so I put my hand in his shorts and he's wearing underwear, but his underwear is soaked. And I'm like, dude, is this guy like pissing himself?
Pissing himself, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? And, he's like having me touch him. And as I grew into an adult, maybe 10 years later from this point, because I still didn't know what it was because it's never happened to me, but the guy would have so much like pre-ejaculate, his underwear were literally soaked. So just think about that. Like this 30-year-old man is so horny or so like dying to have sex with a little kid that his underwear are soaked and he's like about to, ejaculate without even doing anything. Like that's like the amount of fantasy that is going through his head.
But it's less about the sex. It's more about he's molding the perfect partner for him.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah. God, it just disgusts me now. Like every time I think about this now, it's just like.
Well, how did it progress? So it eventually progressed to the worst of the worst. Did it start with oral?
Yep.
It started with oral.
Yep. Yeah. So it was all hands, and then it went to oral. And at around 11 or 12 years old, I think I was about 12. the oral sex was just like nonstop. It was every weekend reciprocating oral sex. He would do it, I would do it. He would do it, I would do it, and it was just every weekend. And then
Did you ever feel guilty about enjoying it?
Yeah. So the first, I don't know if maybe guilt is the right word. I'm not sure. I was very confused.
I've heard this before. That's why I'm asking. You.
Yep. So what really was weird was that the first orgasm I ever had was with this grown man, right? And I remember I have this orgasm, and he looks up at me, and he's like real proud of himself, and he's like, "Did you enjoy that?" And I'm like, "What am I gonna say? No, I just had an orgasm." You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I supposed to say?
Yeah, they're pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. So like,
It was pretty cool.
right. And so I'm like, I don't even know what I mean, I know what happened, but I'm like.
So Andrew, not to make light of this, but Andrew Dice Clay puts that perfectly. When you're 5 years old or 6-year-old, 7-year-old, when you start playing with yourself and the little goose shots, and he goes, "Oh shit, I fucking broke it."
Yeah.
You can't even comprehend it because you don't have that base.
You don't know what's going on at that point, but just know it feels good, and it doesn't feel right, but it feels good.
So what was I knew what was happening because my mom. She had exposed us to porn really quick.
Oh God!
And so, like when I was like 5, around the first time I got molested, we had found her porn stash, right? And by the time I was like 10, she knew that I was watching porn from her porn stash, so she just gave me a DVD and said, "You can watch it whenever you want." So at 10 years old, I was watching porn as much as I wanted.
Well, your governor had to be broken by the time you're 12.
Dude.
Like you need something extra, and that's what happens.
Dude, I was.
Was it like straight porn or was it?
Yeah, it was all straight porn. Yeah, yeah. So like, I was like very aware. I knew everything. I tried to have sex with a girl when I was like 5 or 6 in my closet. My mom kind of walks in, and this girl is probably like, "What the fuck's this kid doing?" But anyways, so yeah, we go. Oral sex happens, right? And so when I was 12, my mom gets taken away from me. I was at my neighbor's house one day. And oddly enough, we were watching the old show Intervention. And at the end of every episode, they talk about if you have somebody, you can contact us here, right? And so we're looking at my neighbor, and we're like, "Oh, we know somebody." And we're thinking about getting our mom on this show. Like, maybe this will help her. Because we had already, well, actually, I had addressed her at 12 years old. I addressed her, and I asked her, "Are you using crack? Are you using cocaine?" And she yelled at me and screamed at me, which I think was really brave of me to do, considering most people won't even tell somebody that. I don't like the way you did this, You don't
even have the wherewithal at 12, 13 years old to.
Yeah. So I asked her like all these questions. She's like, "No, like, fuck you. I'm not doing any drugs. Mind your fucking business." And she was so freaking high. She had a broken foot and she was walking around on it. So anyways, my mom, we walk outside. We're at my neighbor's house watching the show. We walk outside and there's a fire in our front yard. And so we're immediately hysterical. We know something bad has happened. Her boyfriend comes out next. He's got blood on his shirt. Turns out she like stabbed him or attacked him in the bathroom, probably over some drugs. And my mom is like running around yelling and screaming. Cop shows up, throws her in the back of the car. I'm sitting here looking at my mom. She's in the back of the car. I remember being in the street, and it feels like there was like a third person like camera over top of me. And it just felt like, my mom was about to be taken away from me, and she's telling me she loved me and she'll be back and all this. And so
it's probably the best thing that could ever happen.
It was.
In hindsight?
In hindsight, absolutely. But at that moment, I mean,
your world's ending.
Dude, my world is over. And I'm just like absolutely terrified. My blood, it feels like my blood is leaving my body. And I just feel like, this is how I describe death. I think this is probably what death feels like. It just felt like my blood was leaving my soul. And I had nothing left of me. I mean, I felt freezing cold in a hot summer day, around lunchtime. It was just miserable experience.